Why do we know that something is extremely important? Know that if we don't do it, the consequences will be terrible. Yet in the end, we still choose to scroll on our phones to avoid it? From studying and exams to important projects at work, we always promise ourselves, "I'll do it tomorrow. There's still plenty of time." But the result is that you end up staying awake all night in panic when the deadline is right in front of you, along with the guilt of having wasted so much time. The more you think about the task you have to complete, the more pressure you feel. The more afraid you are to face it, the deeper you continue sinking into your phone screen. The truth is, the human brain has logical flaws that even you don't realize. In this video, you will understand why our brain always chooses easy, comfortable things in the present, even though our own future self will have to suffer the consequences and exhaustion tomorrow. And most importantly, this video will expose the 5 stages of the collapse of reason, helping you clearly understand how those logical flaws operate, so you can find a way to free yourself from procrastination and take back control of your own time. Stage 1. Unconscious initiation. The bait of false comfort. Everything always begins extremely gently. When you receive a big project from your boss or an exam schedule from school, your first feeling is not panic. Looking at the timeline with 1 or 2 weeks still ahead, you tell yourself, "It's still early. I can take it easy for now. Starting tomorrow won't be too late." This logical flaw happens because the brain is always biased toward the present moment. When the deadline is still far away, the brain does not feel any pressure. It automatically turns on a false sense of comfort and underestimates the difficulty of the work. To it, at that moment, 2 weeks feels like an endless amount of time. That is why when facing an exam that is still 2 weeks away, you tell yourself that studying for just a few days will be enough. Or when your boss gives you a plan due next month, you casually decide to wait until next week and do it all at once. You keep delaying because you believe that the tomorrow version of yourself will be more hardworking and more inspired. But in reality, you do not truly believe you will do better tomorrow. You are only trying to avoid the feeling of having to start today. Stage 2. Comfort in guilt. The hidden resistance. Time passes. Half of the deadline has disappeared, and you still haven't made any progress. At this point, the initial ease is replaced by waves of anxiety and guilt. You know you have to work, but the pressure that has been building up makes you feel suffocated and afraid. To soothe that fear, the brain begins to create a more subtle game of self-deception. Busy procrastination. You suddenly start cleaning your desk, organizing your bedroom, wiping down things you haven't touched all year, or doing any other minor tasks. You deceive yourself into thinking you are preparing the best environment to focus, but in reality, it is only an excuse to avoid the most important task in front of you. The logical flaw here is that you are confusing being busy with being effective. Intentionally filling your time with secondary actions does not reduce the workload at all. It only extends the time you spend avoiding it. As a result, even though your body keeps moving, your mind is still weighed down by anxiety. You think you are preparing yourself, but in reality, you are only looking for a legal shelter to run away from pressure. Stage 3. Facing the crisis. The warning bell. In the blink of an eye, the red deadline rushes right in front of you. At this point, the time that was once measured in weeks has shrunk into days or even hours. The vague guilt from the previous stage immediately turns into real panic. You realize that you no longer have any way out. At this moment, a very classic logical flaw appears. Instead of immediately starting the work to save the situation, you spend most of your time calculating and regretting. You begin making meaningless calculations in your head. It's 2 p.m. now. If I work non-stop until 10 p.m., how many hours will I have? If I skip this chapter, will I make it in time? You wish time could go back. You blame yourself for wasting so much time before. Your brain is now overloaded by fear. The pressure is so great that you lose the ability to think clearly. You panic and don't know where to start because everywhere you look, you see unfinished work. You fall into a state of paralysis caused by panic, and that very panic continues to consume the few precious hours you have left. You are not lacking time. You are only using the little time you have left to regret the days that have already passed. Stage 4. The explosion of instinct. The last-minute halo. When time is counted only in minutes, fear turns into survival instinct. At this point, you have no other choice but to rush into the work like a machine. The brain activates emergency mode, pumping adrenaline through your body to help you reach a level of focus you normally never have. You stay up all night, skip meals, skip sleep, and type frantically just to submit the assignment or finish the report before the final deadline. The most dangerous logical flaw appears right at this moment. You somehow finish the work just in time, almost magically. Looking at that result, you proudly think, "So it turns out, I only need one night to solve everything." Or, "I'm the kind of person who only works effectively under high pressure." You turn your own lack of discipline into a special ability. But the truth is, you are making a harmful mistake by confusing finished with excellent. The product you create in a rush is only a patched-together version full of mistakes, far below your real ability. You do not work better under pressure. You are only gambling your reputation on the final seconds. You think you have defeated time, but in reality, you have just survived a lucky escape. Stage 5. The endless loop. The subconscious permission. The storm passes, and you miraculously survive. Right after the feeling of relief comes the final logical flaw, and also the most dangerous one: selective forgetting. Your brain very quickly erases the memory of those panicked hours, the cold sweat, and the humiliation of racing against time. You keep only one impression. In the end, everything turned out fine. This subconscious permission clears the way for the next round of procrastination. Because you already have a successful last-minute precedent, you allow yourself to repeat that behavior in the future. When you receive a new task, you once again look at the distant timeline. Once again, tell yourself, "I'll do it tomorrow," and confidently step into a new cycle of collapse with an even higher level of numbness. The truth is, you have not learned any lesson from those narrow escapes. You are normalizing your lack of discipline and turning it into a deeply rooted habit. This cycle will never end until you face a truly bitter consequence: a canceled project, a failed exam, or a major opportunity slipping out of reach just because of a few minutes of delay. You think you have overcome the challenge, but in reality, you have just signed a contract to continue living as a slave to procrastination. To step out of this swamp, we must redefine everything we once believed about procrastination. The problem is not that you are lazy, careless, or lacking ambition, as other people often criticize. The real problem is that you are too perfectionistic and carry an invisible fear of imperfection. You set standards that are too high, wanting everything you create to be excellent from the very first step. That enormous self-imposed pressure backfires, turning the task into a giant mountain pressing down on your mind, causing your brain to freeze in self-defense. You procrastinate not because you do not want to do it, but because you care too much about the result and fear that you are not strong enough to carry it. The problem is not that you need to accumulate enough energy or wait for a beautiful, perfect moment to begin. The real problem is that there is no such thing as a perfect moment, and energy does not appear from sitting still. Waiting for the beginning of the week, waiting for the beginning of the month, or waiting for a neat, perfect hour is actually just a way for you to extend the permission slip for avoidance. Readiness is a psychological illusion. You will never feel completely ready until you actually put your hands into the work. Instead of trying to force yourself to change your entire lifestyle in a dramatic and overwhelming way, which only makes your brain more afraid and more likely to keep running away, break the procrastination loop with the following 4 small, realistic, and extremely easy-to-apply steps. First, lower the cost of the task with the 5-minute agreement rule. The brain's greatest fear is not the work itself, but its size and duration. When you think you have to sit and study all night or finish a 10-page report, your brain immediately protests. The next time procrastination hits, ask yourself one minimal question. If right now I only sit down, open my computer, and work for exactly 5 minutes, and after 5 minutes, if I'm too tired, I can shut it down and go to sleep, can I do that? The answer is definitely yes, because 5 minutes is not scary. The secret of this rule is that the greatest resistance always lies at the starting point. Once you get through the first 5 minutes, write the first few lines, or turn the first few pages, your brain will automatically activate work mode. At that moment, the momentum of action appears, and naturally pulls you forward without needing to force yourself. Second, clearly separate the boundary between work and play. The worst state of a procrastinator is toxic limbo. When you are playing and scrolling social media, your mind feels anxious and guilty because of the unfinished work. But when you finally force yourself to sit at the desk, your hand starts itching and your eyes keep glancing at the phone screen. As a result, you neither get work done nor truly enjoy your entertainment. Next time, when you are about to give up halfway and go back to your phone, ask yourself, if I scroll my phone while carrying this guilt and anxiety, is this really freedom and happiness? This question will help wake you up. Set a serious agreement with yourself. Once you sit down to work, cut off all phone notifications and focus completely. But once you have finished that part of the work, shut down the computer and enjoy your free time proudly, comfortably, and without any lingering burden. Third, allow yourself the right to create trash products. One of the biggest reasons we hesitate to begin is perfectionism. You want the first page to be beautifully written. You want the presentation to be perfect from the very first slide. This expectation that is too high unintentionally creates enormous psychological pressure, making you afraid to put pen to paper. Next time, before you begin, tell yourself, I allow myself to write a terrible draft, full of spelling mistakes and stupid ideas. Lower the standard to the minimum. You can solve a math problem in the most basic way, or write the clumsiest paragraph possible. Remember one core principle. Having a terrible version to fix is infinitely better than having a perfect blank page that remains empty. Finish it first, then improve it later. Finally, create a warning journal to stop the subconscious from forgetting. As we saw in stage 5, the brain has a very dangerous mechanism. It erases the memory of panic after you luckily survive a deadline. It makes you forget the cold sweat, the self-disgusted head shakes at 3 a.m., and then next time you procrastinate again. To break this, at the exact moment you have just submitted something on time while completely exhausted, take out your phone and write a short journal entry or record a short video speaking to yourself. Ask yourself and record the answer. Is this pounding heartbeat, this splitting headache, and the humiliation of submitting a patched-together product worth repeating next time? The next time a new task appears and your brain whispers the familiar sentence, I'll do it tomorrow, immediately open that journal page or video and watch it. That is the strongest, most realistic evidence to take away your subconscious mind's right to deceive you, forcing you to act immediately. The most dangerous thing is not how many times you have procrastinated in the past or how many opportunities you have wasted. The most dangerous thing is that you are normalizing that lack of discipline, turning avoidance into a habit, and then fooling yourself with what you call the last-minute halo. You think you are controlling the game, but in reality, you are gambling your entire future on lucky bets in the final seconds. And maybe you are living with that harmful logical flaw every day, personally postponing your big goals and the real dreams of your life to a day called I'll do it tomorrow without even realizing it. If this video touched you, made you see yourself a little differently, and if you are ready to turn off this device and spend exactly 5 minutes taking action right now, then subscribe to the channel. We will meet again to continue breaking down the hidden psychological corners of the mind and reclaiming control over our lives. Thank you for watching. And now, turn off the screen and begin.